The Republic Broadcasting Network.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 20.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Monday, January 28th, 2019, almost to the end of the month here. And my goodness, have we got a lot to talk about today. It's a very busy news day. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Sam is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, get you on the air with your comments, questions, and opinions here. So let's get right on into it here. Nancy Pelosi, even though the government shutdown is over, even though Nancy Pelosi basically beat Donald Trump on the shutdown issue and got him to sign off on continuing the government without any funding for the border wall. She couldn't be happy with that. She is still planning to postpone the State of the Union. She's refusing to officially invite the president to give the annual speech on Tuesday. And again, she's feeling that she is victorious, that she is in charge of the government and not Donald Trump. And I think she's made a hideous mistake because, first of all, her unapproval numbers really soared during the shutdown. A lot of people really thought it was her fault that the shutdown occurred and not Donald Trump. And for her to do this after Donald Trump capitulates, it's basically Pelosi slapping Trump in the face, and I think it's going to come back to haunt her. So at this point, they don't know when the State of the Union speech will occur. I think Trump ought to just do a speech Tuesday from the Oval Office and explain to the American people what the heck is going on with this country, because things are just so obviously messed up, and we're seeing this government become so badly factionalized. And of course, that is consistent with my theory that we're headed for a Soviet Union-style collapse here. Now, down in Venezuela, things are going rather chaotically there. The official corporate media is saying that Maduro is in decline and Guaido is in ascension. I'm not really sure that's accurate. Basically, Maduro has ordered military drills to show other countries, meaning the United States, that they should not try and think that a military intervention is going to be very easy in Venezuela. So they're working on that one here. But we know that the U.S. has been trying to intervene in Venezuela for a very, very long time, going on back to the time of Hugo Chavez. Sort of an extension of the Monroe Doctrine here. And Venezuela is looking at dangerous destabilization, with the United States and all of its allies having recognized Juan Guaido as president and declaring the actual Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, no longer recognized. Now, Maduro, of course, did win that last election in one of what is a very transparent, honest election. And former President Jimmy Carter, who has made a big part of his post-presidential career to look at elections around the world, says Venezuela's elections are among the most honest and transparent on earth. They're more honest and transparent than what we have here in the United States of America. But of course, you have everyone say, "Oh no, we can't. It's not an honest election. The person that we want didn't win." Bill Maher came on out cheering the U.S. coup in Venezuela, saying it's our backyard. He's basically echoing the Monroe Doctrine. This is our backyard. We're allowed to go on in there and mess around with that country here. And then went on to say that Trump is obviously interfering with Russia. They're still pushing that whole situation. Now, the United States has accepted Guaido's designation of Carlos Alfredo Vecchio as the Caracas chargé d'affaires to the U.S., according to the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And basically, they're starting to treat Guaido like he is the president of Venezuela. It could turn out to be a huge embarrassment because they've been down this road before. They tried with a coup against Hugo Chavez, which ultimately fell apart here. But Guaido is already targeting the state oil money. He's requesting money from the IMF. He's going to plunge the people of Venezuela into debt to the notorious International Monetary Fund to fund his unelected government. And it's rather amazing to keep that in mind when the U.S. is out there saying, we're bringing democracy to Venezuela. No, you're not. You're putting into power an unelected government. That's exactly what's going on here. Now, Guaido is attempting to fire the directors of Citgo Petroleum, which is owned by Venezuela's state oil company PDVSA, and wants to appoint his own board, who will basically direct the money from the oil business into his pockets rather than Maduro's. All right, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Now, National Security Advisor John Bolton is out there admitting the primary U.S. interest in Venezuela is their oil capability. Not just the volume of oil they have, but what currency it's being sold for. That's been one of the big problems the United States has had with Venezuela over all these years. Venezuela is willing to sell their oil for currencies other than the U.S. dollar. And that's been a big problem all along. Now, interestingly enough, as you know, there's photos all over the media of protests against Maduro, and we're being told that people of Venezuela, they've got no food, no clothing, no toilet paper, and they're just really, really poor. But if you look carefully at the photos of the supporters of Guaido, they look like they're doing very well. They're not the poor. They're not starving. These are the people who have been bleeding wealth from the people of Venezuela, and they don't want to give up that gravy train. And these are the people who are going to support a CIA-backed coup d'etat, and that's exactly what's going on here. Now, Venezuela has rejected the EU demand for new elections within 8 days. Not exactly sure what the 8 days represented. But they're saying, no, we don't need new elections. We just had elections. They were open, they were honest, they were transparent. The opposition won the legislature, which is part of what triggered this crisis here. But Maduro won the presidency. And he has no reason to go on back and have new elections here. So Maduro's describing this as insolence on the part of Europe. And he's absolutely right. It's insolent for any other nation to go into another nation and say, you've got to have new elections until somebody we like gets elected. Meanwhile, of course, we still have that crisis where the Bank of England is refusing to release Venezuela's gold back to Venezuela due to U.S. lobbying. And this, for lack of any other word, this is robbery. This is theft. This is the United States and England conspiring to steal the gold belonging to Venezuela. And that's exactly what it is. All right. Turkey is emerging as a staunch defender of Maduro against Trump. He's saying, brother, we are with you. Turkey is one of these nations that's getting a little upset with constant U.S. interference with other nations' business here. Australia, on the other hand, has backed Venezuela's leader, Juan Guaido, as interim president. So has Israel. So has Netanyahu. Yes, we back Guaido as the legitimate president. Well, you know something? It's not up to Australia, and it's not up to Australia. It's up to the voters of Venezuela, and the voters of Venezuela have chosen. They chose Maduro to be their president. Maduro is the president of Venezuela here. All right. Now, article out of Zero Hedge. The top 5 dumbest arguments defending Trump's Venezuela interventionism. The first argument, socialism is bad. Socialism is bad. Well, our own government is going more and more socialism. Certainly the liberal Democrats are pushing socialism as hard as they can. And socialism can be made to work if everybody taking part in it is a saint. That could be said for any political system as well. But the reality is that Venezuela, going back to the Bolivar Revolution, going back to Hugo Chavez, Venezuela decided as a policy they were going to spend Venezuela's wealth on the Venezuelan people. And that's why prior to all this U.S. economic warfare, Venezuela had one of the highest standards of living in South America. But you know, that sets a bad example. What? Spend the wealth of a country on the country's people? Oh my goodness, we can't have that. We can't have that. That's utterly ridiculous. You know, we've got to take the wealth of the country and give it to the already wealthy. You know, that's the way capitalism is supposed to work here, and that's a bad example. It's going to give the slaves in other countries uppity ideas, and that's one of the reasons why they've been after Venezuela for quite some time. The other argument, they're saying, well, it's not really interventionism. There are no boots on the ground, but I'm pretty sure at this point there probably will be very soon. And of course, the inevitable, Maduro's bad. Maduro is evil. Maduro is doing terrible things to his people. It's the same thing that we got claims against Assad, claims against Saddam Hussein, along with, you know, I support the Venezuelan people. We care deeply about democracy in Venezuela. Well, if you care deeply about democracy, why don't you respect the result of the last election? And finally, you don't understand what's going on there. You know, I talk directly to the Venezuelans, and they're very unhappy with Maduro here. All right, we're going to take some phone calls. Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
You know what, Mike? People in Venezuela are going to work every day. There's cars driving around, and, you know, things are moving around, and,
yep.
You know, there's a small percentage of people that's not happy, but you know what? That's the way it works. You know, there's always going to be somebody like over here that's not happy.
Yes.
Or riding in the street. You know, I mean, Mike, it's Guaido. You know, Mike Pompeo maybe need to. This thing seems rushed because he called him Guido. Isn't Guido like a bounty hunter from Star Wars, put out by Jabba the Hutt, or it's an Italian slang, or it's an Italian slang term? He called him Guido.
Well, actually, unfortunately, the G is pronounced as an H. It's Guido.
They don't, Mike. They don't even know who this guy is because he was put out there. Nobody even in Venezuela heard of the guy. The guy's a puppet who went to George Washington University.
Yes.
It's another fraud, and it's been rushed. And Mike, it's going to fail because the military is backing not him. Okay, they're backing Maduro. So it's a failure. And the attaché of Venezuela, you know, which is in Washington, D.C., so we know that he's bought off. But the majority of the whole, the Venezuelans are going to stick with Maduro. So it's a failed coup. And it's a shame, like, you know, like I said before, Trump ran. The same thing that's happening to Trump is he's doing it to Venezuela. It's a bizarre thing going on. Like, what they're trying to pull with Trump, he's pulling the Venezuela. and he puts Elliot Abrams in. Who is Trump listening to? Anybody who votes for Trump again, come on now. He put Elliot Abrams in, Mike. The guy is a war criminal, and he was behind these death squads, right, in Latin America. You know about Elliot Abrams.
Oh, I know about Elliot Abrams. I mean, he lied to Congress during the Iran-Contra affair. He had to get a presidential pardon. And, yeah, he's definitely one of the deep state fixers.
Yeah, so, I mean, but why at this time are they doing this? You know, like, everything's not. Well, I mean, I don't even know what the stock market was today, but it's not. Nothing's going well.
Well, the stock market is down today, but I think what triggered this was that Venezuela inked a deal with Russia for Russia to mine gold in Venezuela. And the United States is saying, we need that gold. We need to put it in the New York Federal Reserve and J.P. Morgan and all the other gold depositories to replace all that gold that other countries put in there that, you know, our banks played games with, and now they can't get it back.
And you know what's sad, Mike? Like, as the Bank of England, as like supposed to be a legitimate bank, like, would you trust them with your money? Like, as the American, you know, as they say in holding gold, if you don't own it, you don't hold it, right?
Yeah, if it's not in your own possession, it's not really yours. And I mean, you know, the J.P. Morgan and the Fed basically proved that. So does the Bank of England with Venezuela's gold. Venezuela can't get it back now.
But the vaults are like a safety deposit box. So if you have your jewelry in a safety deposit box in the U.S. and say something happens economically or your government don't like it, if you go to that safety deposit box, that stuff can be taken.
Yes.
And you have no recourse to get it back. Now, then you know how Venezuela failed. Like, I mean, if they, first of all, they shouldn't be putting their gold in any other country but their own vaults at this point. Like, if every country should have the gold on their own hold at this point.
Well,
right?
You see, Venezuela pledged, basically sent that gold originally to Germany as collateral for some loans, and they finally paid off the loans, and the gold was supposed to come back to Venezuela, but it was temporarily deposited at the Bank of England, and now the Bank of England is saying, no, we're not going to send it back. The U.S. is telling us to hang on to it, and I'm sure the Bank of England is very happy to be sitting on $1.2 billion worth of gold that belongs to other people. But that's exactly right. If it's not in your possession, it is at risk from any of these banking entities.
And you know what's sad, Mike? Like, you see the playbook. You see how England, France, they came out, right, supporting Guaido. They don't even know who the guy is, but they'll support him because it's not Maduro. It's like whatever they get their marching orders for. I mean, these people don't have no loyalties to anybody anymore. It's a joke. It's a joke. And, Mike, I got to say this. If anybody still supports Trump, you're a fool. Because this dude, at this point, is not only a one-term president, but he has played us the fool, Mike. Because why would you pull this? Why would you put Elliot Abrams in and all these other people? I mean, it's one thing after another. And, Mike, if Trump runs against Clinton, I'll just stay home. Have a good show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. We're going to switch over to Don in the Philippines. Don, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine.
Hello? Yeah, this thing about gold, there's definitely some stuff going on with gold that is beyond my ability to comprehend. I've dealt with gold. I mean, I made money on gold. I bought it when it was real cheap, like $350, and then it went way up, and I sold it. I made some money. But this deal with most of the gold is owned by countries, by central banks of the countries. That's where most of the above ground gold is owned. But I don't understand this whole deal about, like your previous caller there said, why do they have it? Well, I understand the way you explained it. With Germany first, they were paying off a debt. But yeah, this deal of storing it, Germany had problems also getting their gold from it was stored somewhere in New York City, right?
Yeah,
I don't
the
know if
New
they ever
York
did
Fed.
get it.
Yeah, they couldn't get their gold back, and when they got it back, it wasn't the original bars. It wasn't as pure. And as you know, it was in Germany where they discovered that some of these bullion bars floating around are actually gold-covered tungsten bars.
Right. But there's fishy stuff going on. One thing I've never been able to understand is this concept of leasing gold. And they talk about it. If you read the gold websites and stuff, leasing gold. It makes no sense to lease a metal.
Well,
Right?
it does
Like
if
you're
you
leasing a
need
house
to
or
have it basically as a collateralizing agent. Anyway, listen, stay on the line. We got to take a break for commercials. I'm going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Don in the Philippines. We're talking about gold leasing and why it even exists. And again, it has to do with companies that have to have physical gold on hand, and they may not actually have it. until a later time. And one good example would be gold mining companies that are promising to deliver a certain amount of gold in a certain period of time. They can't actually deliver. They'll lease the gold. They'll turn that gold over to their customers. Then when they finish mining the gold, they'll have the gold back to return to the person they leased it from. So it is, in fact, a legitimate business transaction.
Okay. At least it's still, though, it just boggles my mind. I mean, it's like me leasing a house and then going to the bank and saying, I'm going to use this for collateral. This is a house that I leased. But you don't own it. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
but unfortunately, that's the way some of these financial transactions will actually work, especially when you get into gold rehypothecation. They're out there playing games with metals they don't actually own. That's where the New York Federal Reserve and J.P. Morgan, Bank of England, and Bank of France got into trouble. They were playing financial games with gold that belonged to other nations.
Right. The whole ETF thing is like that. You buy a gold ETF, platinum ETF, or whatever, based on the spot price of platinum, but you don't know. No, they don't really have that much platinum or gold or silver or whatever it is. It's just like a derivative to see if it goes up or not. It's all shady, crooked business, and I don't know. The little guy like me can't do much about it. All we can do is survive, Mike. And everybody lies like hell all the time. And the whole thing is, people don't care about truth anymore because we're so accustomed to having these. The average guy at CNN, the whole stream of lies, nothing but lies, 24/7. That everybody's used to it, and nobody really cares what the truth is, and we're accustomed to it. Okay, that's all I got, my.
Yeah, we seem to have gone away from a civilization where there are truth and lies to where there are lies and then there are the accepted lies. And unfortunately, a lot of what passes for economics today are the accepted lies, where we say, oh, yeah, we understand this is crooked, but we are socially required to accept that this is the way things are going to be. All right, Don, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Daniel in British Columbia. Aloha, Daniel. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, we're living in the gold-plated tungsten age, I think. Let's see. I think Dustin from New Jersey beat me to the punch. I was going to mention Elliot Abrams, one of these members of the National Endowment for Democracy. He's a Council on Foreign Relations member. I didn't know about the Iran-Contra, but it doesn't surprise me. And yeah, I think it's almost like Venezuela is the latest in a string of takeovers by the CIA, working for United Fruit in Guatemala all over again. That's what this is. So,
yeah, it definitely is. And, they've been planning it for a long time. They've been wanting to get into Venezuela for a long time. This is the latest effort. We don't know that it's going to succeed. That is still very much up in the air. The last time they tried a coup d'etat was against Hugo Chavez, and they actually drove him from power for an entire week before he was able to come on back. So we'll see what Maduro is able to do. But as long as the military is on the side of Maduro, it doesn't look like they can really depose him short of an outright military intervention. And I don't know that the American people are really willing to sit still for yet another war in another far-off land.
Yeah, it's funny how it's another flashpoint with Russia too, just like Syria. I mean, they're really goading Russia. I don't know what Putin is still the only statesman left in the world, as far as I can tell. So I hope he keeps it together and doesn't plunge us into a third world war.
Well, we seem to be heading in that direction. And again, Putin is trying to keep things calm, but he's also trying to basically contain this U.S. expansionism. And at some point, it is going to reach a point of direct conflict between the U.S. and Russia. And I'm sorry, but that's just the way it seems to be headed.
All right. Well, enjoy. Have a good rest of the show, Mike. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over. Well, actually, no, we're coming up on a commercial break here, so I'm going to leave the next phone call until after the commercial break here. Now, the head of Hezbollah in Lebanon is warning Israel regarding its continuing attacks in Syria, saying that a miscalculation could trigger a regional war. That may actually be what Netanyahu wants as a distraction from his corruption charges going into the Israeli elections. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. Back with another phone call after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Joe in California. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. Mike, do you recall those stories emanating from France about a year ago or a year and a half ago regarding Christian Lagarde, the current head of the IMF and former President Sarkozy. They were in legal trouble.
Yes.
Lagarde, financially related. I believe it was had to do with a French company, and Sarkozy, I believe, was the illegal contributions to his campaign may have been linked with Gaddafi, now deceased, conveniently.
Yes.
And we were told that Sarkozy was held at the police station for more than 24 hours. And I've tried to find information on these stories, any follow-up, but it seems like they were just swept under the rug. It seems like these stories are just put out there to try to convince people, yes, see, the justice system is fair. It applies to even the elite. But it seems like it's just been swept under the rug. Have you heard anything?
No, I have heard absolutely nothing, and it does remind us that despite, as you say, the posturing in the corporate media that justice is going to look at the high as well as the low, the high never get prosecuted, they never get sent to jail. The Clintons are certainly a good example of that.
It's sort of like these are stories that serve a purpose, and I include in this what happened with MH17, the Malaysia Airlines flight that was shot down over eastern Ukraine, where it was shot down, but the investigation, the investigators really didn't care, didn't want to get to the bottom of the story to get the facts out on who was actually responsible. It just served its purpose, and its purpose was to impose sanctions, to get the Europeans to agree to impose sanctions on Russia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the investigation, they didn't even go to the crash site.
No. And the Russian government, the authorities were offering information from the manufacturer of this missile, but they didn't want to see it because it served its purpose. Just like I believe this Lagarde and Sarkozy stories served their purpose. Now they're just forgotten.
Just pushing the agenda.
That's all. Thank you, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open now. And getting on back to the news here, the United States has sent a new military convoy to Deir ez-Zor after the popular uprising against the Syrian Democratic Forces. Now, the Syrian Democratic Forces are not part of the Syrian government. They are one of the U.S.-backed rebel groups. And recently, because of some of the actions that they have been taking, they triggered a popular uprising among the Syrian people. And so now the U.S. is sending a military convoy to try and basically control the unrest against this group. I thought we were pulling out of Syria here. And apparently Israel is now opposed to a Syrian pullout, or at least a complete Syrian pullout. Israel is demanding the United States keep a base inside Syria with which to deter Iran or challenge Iran. And again, it's important to remember that the United States has not been invited to be in Syria by the Syrian government. They do not have the permission of the Syrian government to be in Syria. They are just in there because of this attitude of we're the United States and we're exceptional and we can go anywhere and do anything that we want. Okay. Meanwhile, ISIS, remember ISIS, they had this caliphate. We have a caliphate, you know, and there's going to be a caliph. And it's been shrinking down. And apparently at this point inside Syria, what was once the vast ISIS caliphate has been reduced to 2 small villages in Syria. So it's only a matter of weeks or days before the villages are overrun and ISIS in Syria basically ceases to exist. And at that point, the United States doesn't have an excuse to remain there anymore. And that's going to be a bit of a problem. Now, Trump has said he wanted to pull out of Syria because ISIS was defeated, which is accurate. And you have John Bolton and Mike Pompeo are out there saying, no, we've got to stay in Syria. Well, what's going to be the excuse here? Well, Assad is gassing his own people. They're probably going to try that one again here. All right. Turkey is shelling the YPG militia positions in northern Syria for a third consecutive day. So that is still going on, where all this Kurdish unrest, if you will. So it is still going on over there. As you know, one of the arguments that's being put forward to remain in Syria are those 4 American soldiers who were killed in what was claimed to be a suicide bombing. And other voices are coming on out saying that American deaths are not a reason to stay. And that the idea that the death of a U.S. soldier in combat is not a reason to keep staying in the combat. And that maybe it's not a good idea to be pushing that idea. And of course, a lot of people are thinking that attack that killed those 4 soldiers in Syria was a false flag, specifically to push that agenda that we have to stay in Syria. That we can't leave now. They attacked and killed our people, and it really didn't make any sense. Really, did it? I mean, the United States is withdrawing from Syria. Why attack the U.S. at that point when they're finally leaving? Now, over in Israel, the tensions are still going on there. Apparently, a Palestinian has been killed and 22 injured in clashes with Israeli soldiers in eastern Gaza. And apparently, it all began with a stone being thrown from a slingshot at Israeli troops. By the way, did you know that a Palestinian throwing a stone can be sentenced to 10 years in prison in the Israeli court system? Those must be some real nasty stones. All right. The United Nations has expressed shock at the terror carried out by Israeli settlers that killed a Palestinian father of 4 in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. And they're talking about an incident in Al-Mughayr, and they're saying it's shocking and unacceptable. This is from the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, Nikolai Maidanov, and basically saying that he's talking about this Palestinian village was violently stormed by Israeli settlers where they killed 1 Palestinian. And they're saying the UN must put an end to the violence. Well, the UN can't. It would take a Security Council resolution, and any Security Council resolution against Israel or the Israeli settlers will be vetoed by the United States. So Israel can basically do whatever they want. They're above the law. As long as the United States exercises their veto at the UN Security Council, Israel is above international law. Egypt has issued an ultimatum to Hamas on cooperation with Iran. And this has to do with the fact that Hamas was supposed to get funds from Qatar, which was blocked by Israel. And Egypt is now issuing this ultimatum saying that Hamas should not cooperate with Israel at all, or bad things will happen. So Israel is definitely coming down on the side of, Egypt is coming down on the side with Israel. And a lot of it has to do with their gas partnership. Egypt is buying natural gas from Israel. And now they're buddy-buddy. They're all friends. I guess that whole thing about bombing the Sinai a few years ago has been forgotten. And they're all buddies, and Egypt is now coming down against Hamas. Over in France, Macron is trying to undo the Treaty of Verdun and basically bring back the Carolingian Reich. And this has to do with France and Germany signing this new treaty, reaffirming their close ties and commitment to support each other. It's called the Aachen Treaty. Now, of course, Germany and France were already committed to defending each other under the NATO agreement, but they decided they were going to sign this new treaty, which is bringing themselves closer together and effectively almost forming one whole new country out of them. But they're pushing forward toward this grand army of the European Union. And we're starting to see this schism break up in the EU, where you're going to have France and Germany as the main powers inside the EU. Now that Britain is leaving, it's going to be France and Germany versus the other nations inside the EU. And of course, the goal of France and Germany is to displace Brussels as the primary controlling force inside the EU. Meanwhile, a meeting of the NATO-Russia Council in Brussels ended Friday, failing to continue to agree on the dispute surrounding the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty, leaving the matter unresolved. And U.S. officials are still saying they'll withdraw from the INF in the next 2 weeks. Now, their complaint is that Russia has a new cruise missile system that violates the INF. Russia says no, their new missile system does not violate the INF. They put it on display. They're willing to have experts come and look at it and verify that it's within compliance with the INF. The U.S. is saying, we don't care. We've already made up our mind. We're leaving the INF, and we're starting to build a whole new bunch of nuclear-capable, intermediate-range nuclear weapons. Over in Paris, this last weekend was the 11th weekend of the Yellow Vest protests. And once again, the police were out there with tear gas, basically trying to push down the protests. France deployed about 80,000 police officers to patrol the events and to disperse trouble. And there's been some violence, scattered skirmishes. A few cars were set ablaze in the Normandy town of Évreux. And in Paris, crowds gathered at the headquarters of France's lower house of Parliament. Police used tear gas on demonstrators at the iconic Bastille Plaza. And so that's going on over there. Okay, down in Zimbabwe, as you know, things are going very badly down there. There's been a huge crackdown, and rights groups are claiming that women are being raped during house-to-house searches by the Zimbabwe forces. And the government criticized a report by its own rights commission that said security forces were using systematic torture. The government is now claiming that the uniformed perpetrators of these abuses are bogus elements out to tarnish its image. In other words, they're claiming that people are going on out and buying uniforms of the Zimbabwean forces to go on out and commit these rapes and atrocities just to make them look bad. I don't think so. Alrighty. Now, here's an interesting little story. The Democrat-controlled House followed the Senate this week, passing legislation forbidding the president from withdrawing from NATO and affirming undying U.S. support for the outdated Cold War alliance. And the question is NATO really about defense, or is it a jobs program for the military-industrial complex? Or has it, in fact, become a new offensive force serving the West? Now, the House and Senate can pass a bill, but the president has to sign it before it becomes law. And I don't think Trump is going to sign this one. Trump's been talking about pulling out of NATO, and I think he should. NATO's obsolete. NATO's become like its own military-industrial complex. Its primary mission is to seek its perpetuation and survival. So when you have any institution, whether it's the military-industrial complex or NATO, that survives on war, they're going to seek to create war. Now, getting into our domestic politics here, Jerome Corsi has come on out and said that he's happy to testify against Roger Stone and basically about what occurred during the 2016 presidential election and whether anyone coordinated with WikiLeaks' effort to undermine Hillary's Clinton campaign speak for itself. And he said, I'll be happy to testify if I would be subpoenaed. Corsi told CNN host Jake Tapper, and I will let the testimony fall wherever it falls. I'm going to tell the truth to the best of my ability. So that is still going on out here. Over at Davos last week, former Secretary of State John Kerry called on President Trump to resign, and Kerry's statement was carried by many media sources, as well as him being asked if he plans to run for president in 2020. But nobody's asking the most important question of all. Why is Kerry still attending important world functions and meeting with world leaders? It's like the Obama White House has never really left. They're still out there, meeting world leaders like they're still in charge. And that's a valid question. Okay, former San Francisco mayor and Speaker of the California State Assembly, Willie Brown, is claiming to have influenced the career of Kamala Harris with political appointments while the two were having an extramarital affair. Brown wrote this in a short article in the San Francisco Chronicle. And Harris was 30 years Brown's junior when the two were dating, basically about half his age. So a lot of little canoodling going on there over in Sacramento. We got to take a break for commercials. We will be right back.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, as you know, even though we're just now out of the 2018 midterms, we're already into the 2020 campaign season. It's just nonstop at this point. And everybody's piling on into the presidential campaign for 2020. They're sensing a political vacuum there as it looks more and more like Trump's going to be a single-term president. And one of the people getting ready to wait on in is former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz. He's going to run as an independent. And apparently this is scaring the heck out of the Democrats because of the possibility that he could, in fact, split the anti-Trump vote and thereby secure Trump's reelection. And, of course, that's the concern of any of the either of the two traditional political parties when an independent runs. Oh my goodness, they're going to take votes away, and they're going to allow the other person to win. But apparently Schultz, who's a lifelong Democrat, he's throwing his hat into the ring, and but he says he's going to run as an independent. And basically, anonymous Democratic strategists have been warning every reporter that they can. Schultz's independent bid is an embarrassing flop. And worst case, he peels off enough swing state voters to hand Trump a second term. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as well. Now, Tulsi Gabbard here in Hawaii is getting ready to formally announce her 2020 campaign. She's going to announce it on February 2nd. We still don't know exactly where or when. I'm hoping to be able to get on out and take some pictures when that does happen, but we'll see. The bad news is, and this is coming out of thehill.com, Hillary Clinton is not ruling out another run for the presidency in 2020. This is coming from CNN White House correspondent Jeff Zeleny, and he was saying on Inside Politics, Clinton told people as recently as this week she isn't closing the doors to the idea of running in 2020. And at this point, I would insert great obscenities, but the FCC would come down on all of our on-air affiliates for that. Okay, do you remember last November 19th? 16 FBI agents raided the Maryland home of a Department of Justice whistleblower who was in possession of Clinton Foundation and Uranium One documents. Now, the whistleblower came across the documents while he was working for an FBI contractor, according to the whistleblower's lawyer. And the feds came on in and confiscated the documents. The whistleblower's Dennis Nathan Kane, the FBI agents rifled through his home for over 6 hours, even though he'd already given the documents to the proper investigative channels. And the documents basically, well, we've got to do a station identification, then I'll tell you the rest of the story.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we're talking about this whistleblower, Dennis Nathan Cain. And he had documents regarding the Clinton Foundation and the Uranium One deal. And last November, the FBI basically raided his home looking for the documents, even though he'd already given the documents to the proper investigative channels, who apparently have done nothing with them since then. But the documents reveal that then FBI Director Robert Mueller failed to investigate criminal behavior by Rosatom, the Russian nuclear firm that purchased 20% of the United States uranium, in this very shady deal that involved then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Now, Representative Louis Gohmert said Saturday that Special Counsel Mueller is trying to cover up his involvement with the Uranium One deal that benefited the Clintons while trying to have a coup against President Donald Trump. And Gohmert said Mueller has done more damage during his 12 years as FBI director than any other, possibly all directors put together. I don't know. J. Edgar Hoover did a lot of damage when he was in that center seat here. Gohmert went on to say he's wasted money right and left. Amazingly, he's hired people like Andrew Weissman that worked with him and Rod Rosenstein in investigating the Russian illegal efforts to obtain our uranium when they quashed information in order to allow the sale to go through so that Hillary could get $145 million for the Clinton Foundation. So it really is outrageous. And yes, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. Story coming on out of the Gateway Pundit. Mexican cartels paid off Mexican president with $100 million. And a former Democrat is now out there saying that the Democratic Party is getting paid millions of dollars by cartels as well, which would explain one of the reasons why they're trying to keep that southern border open so the flow of drugs can continue into this country. So it really is, it's all corruption all the time, 24 hours a day. Let's take a phone call from Rowley in Minnesota. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, I'm not doing so well. I'm a little bit jumping out of my skin now that Donald Trump has been caving in to Nancy Pelosi in this war of fighting Democrat and Republican. And all this time, I just wonder, can somebody just build a wall between these two people? I mean, it's ridiculous that he's going to go with not the steel slab, but actually build a virtual wall, a smart wall. And it's kind of what Nancy Pelosi wanted from the get-go, was to build a technological wall versus Trump's concrete wall.
Well, I don't know that Trump has actually said he's going to go along with that approach to it. I know that's what's being pushed by a lot of people. And the problem with any technological wall, of course, is there are ways around it. The sensors can be blinded. and it's basically it's a non-wall wall is what they're talking about. And again, we know the Democrats want the illegal immigrants to come on in to vote Democratic. If this previous story that we just talked about is accurate, the Democrats are getting money from the Mexican drug cartels to keep that border open.
Right, and we know that Mexicans are very resilient, a lot like the Palestinians, about building holes in the ground and getting through despite being cracked down. And I could definitely see that, but it's a very big concern to me about like health concerns about like the idea of building a 5G wall. I don't know if Trump has actually caved in full demand with Nancy Pelosi, but it is unnerving. I'm seeing commercials about 5G network and how it's very good, and it seems that you'll get deplatformed if you even speak about the 5G that's being put up by Qualcomm and other service providers. But Trump has talked about governmentizing these particular entities. You know, he's got a net neutrality, and it seems that he's just given in to demands, in my opinion.
Trump, unfortunately, he's proving to be a very weak leader. He keeps caving in. He caved in on the Syrian withdrawal. He caved in on the border wall and the shutdown. And I'm not confident that in 3 weeks' time he's actually going to do anything about building that wall. The problem with the technological wall has to do with the reaction time of the border enforcement forces, because you can have a sensor that says, oh my goodness, illegals are coming across the border here. How long is it going to take for Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol to actually show up there? And will, in fact, the illegal immigrants already be gone by the time they get there? So it's a very ineffective approach to the problem.
Is it true, or am I misquoting Donald Trump? Did he say that to build a smart wall, not a medieval wall, in his address on the White House Rose Garden last Friday? Did you read that report?
No, I didn't read that report, and I'm not sure that Trump actually did say that. I think Trump still wants basically a wall.
All right, Mike, I'll send you that report, and I'll get off. Thank you for taking my call.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network here. Okay. As you know, the situation with the Covington Catholic High School really spiraled out of control. The corporate media seized on this selectively edited video to push the agenda that white kids are bad, anybody wearing a Make America Great hat is bad, that, oh my goodness, that they were harassing black people and Native Americans, and it blew up in their faces. It just absolutely turned around. In the meantime, of course, there were all these threats against these kids, these Covington High School students, and they're considered terroristic threats, and prosecutors are saying they're going to investigate them. They're going to investigate and prosecute everybody who threatened these kids for basically doing nothing. They were standing there waiting to get on a bus to go home when they were first of all harassed by these black Israeli, Israelite, whatever they call themselves, and then later on this Native American elder who's been caught lying about a lot of stuff, including being a Vietnam veteran. He basically just walked up to their face banging his drum. And it was totally misconstrued by the corporate media as the kids harassing him. All right. Now, last Thursday, Congress voted 357 to 22 to support Pelosi's $1 trillion slush fund for NATO instead of the $5 billion for a Mexico border wall. So there's something to think about. Pelosi's okay with sending trillions of dollars into the war machine in other countries here, but Oh, no, no, we can't defend our southern border. We've got to keep that open. Absolutely have to keep it open. And Pelosi, apparently this last Saturday, she described the flood of Central Americans coming into our country as an opportunity rather than a crisis, and said she wishes she could take all those children home with her. Well, she's got a lot of room. The Pelosi's have, I think, 5 different mansions. And I would like to see how many of those illegal immigrants she's actually housing in those. Meanwhile, of course, we've got all these leftists who are out there say they're triggered by the Make America Great Again hats. And they're saying people have no right to wear them. Yeah, we do. It's called the First Amendment. And the leftists are out there trying to say, well, they're just as triggering as the white hoods of the KKK. Not really. Nobody in a Make America Great Again hat is out there, lynching black people or burning crosses or doing anything like that. They just want to make our country great again. What is wrong with that idea? Why is that considered racist? Well, it's because nationalism is starting to stand up to globalism, and the globalists don't like that. And so the globalists are trying to basically shout it down and say, you can't do that. You can't talk about your country being great again. That's racist. No, it isn't. It's nationalist. It's patriotic. Over in Ireland, a bill to outlaw goods from Israeli settlements built illegally in the West Bank has been passed by the lower house of the parliament. So it's getting closer and closer to be a law. And of course, Israel's out there screaming that the Irish are anti-Semites, the Irish are Jew haters, the Irish are Nazis, blah, 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 blah. The German government has approved the export to Qatar of 4 Ram naval missile systems developed by Germany and the United States. So more weapons are pouring into the Middle East over there. Over in Yemen, complicating the situation that they already have from this possibly weaponized cholera, there is now an epidemic of swine flu spreading all across Yemen. The health system is crumbling under the Saudi attack. And apparently the United States has decided that it's time to go after Cuba again. Now, back in 1996, they passed a bill called the Anti-Cuban Helms-Burton Act, and it allows Cuban exiles or their families and a few U.S. companies to seek remedies in U.S. courts for properties they lost in Cuba due to nationalization by the revolutionary government of Fidel Castro. Now, ever since, the U.S. government at 6-month intervals has announced that Title III would not be taking effect during the following 6 months. But on January 16th of this year, U.S. Secretary of State Pompeo indicated that suspended implementation will only last 45 days and not the usual 6 months. So it looks like economic war is about to be declared on Cuba. Now, one of the few things the Obama administration did that I agreed with was normalization of relations with Cuba. And it's not just because I like Cuban rum and Cuban cigars. The reasoning was if we were heading into a potential military conflict with Russia, we didn't want Russia to have that military base just 90 miles off the coast of Florida like they did last time. And that was good strategic thinking. But unfortunately, Trump has come into office and he's basically reversed the Obama policy on Cuba. They're back to bashing on Cuba and saying, how dare you defy the United States after the Bay of Pigs? And they're basically just opening the gates. If we do get into more of a contention with Russia, Russia's going to be right back there in Cuba again. It's a bad, bad move. Okay, we've already talked about the Aachen Treaty, France and Germany becoming basically a single state, pledging mutual defense to each other, which is already covered under the NATO agreement here. Okay. Now, the United States military has decided that getting fuel to remote operating bases is a big problem. And in 2008, during the height of the Iraq War, the Government Accountability Office estimated that more than 900,000 gallons of fuel went to bases for basic power needs like lighting and refrigeration. This was on top of the 6.7 million gallons the military burned that year in jets and ground vehicles. And so the U.S. Military Strategic Capabilities Office has put our request for an information about small nuclear reactors that could deploy to these forward bases, like what the U.S. has in Afghanistan. Now, most likely, these are RTG, radioisotope thermoelectric generator designs. They're not actual fission reactors, but they're designed to basically provide the electricity for a military base and not need to be refueled for something like 10 years. And they're actually very useful. You have to be careful of them, of course. There's actually, I think there's a Japanese company that is making these commercially available to be used in places like Arctic exploration sites, very remote bases. They're not cheap, obviously, but they do work. And we use them on the Viking lander. They're using one on Curiosity on Mars. And they do work very well. And basically, they're taking an isotope of plutonium, which is just naturally decaying. It's not fissioning, it's not melting down, but it decays, and in the process of decaying, produces a great amount of heat, and the heat is converted to electricity through thermocouples. It's a very simple, elegant design here. Now, the new National Intelligence Strategy of the United States released its strategy for 2019 last Tuesday, and the document reveals that 17 intelligence agencies of the U.S. are against President Donald Trump's impulsive behavior on war and peace. Now, his behavior isn't impulsive, it is indecisive, which I guess amounts to exactly the same thing. Trump knows what he wants to do, but he can be talked out of it very easily. Getting on back to the Covington students, over at CNN, they're now trying to claim that the Covington students' hand gestures were a code for the N-word. Even though the Covington students didn't actually say the N-word, now they're trying to say that, oh, well, they meant the N-word with the hand gestures they were using. I mean, that's how desperate they are to just keep on pushing this agenda. All righty. Getting on back to this story, the corporate media is clearly becoming part of the movement to get rid of Donald Trump, to get rid of MAGA, to get rid of this idea of nationalism. Nationalism bad. You know, you have to be part of the globalist situation. And unfortunately, these Covington kids got caught up in that whole agenda. Tucker Carlson has called out Savannah Guthrie for basically giving what he called the softest interview to Nathan Phillips. This is the Native American man who was involved in that confrontation with the students from Covington Catholic High School. And, of course, the corporate media tried to assign blame to the students. It eventually came out they did not initiate the confrontation. But NBC basically gave Nathan Phillips the microphone, let him tell his side of the story. They didn't bring the other side of the story in there. They didn't challenge him on the fact that he's lied about being a Vietnam veteran, that he lied about being a recon ranger, which, by the way, is not part of the Marines. It's part of the Army. He was a refrigerator mechanic. was in the Marines for 4 years, and he was discharged as a private. Talk about an underachiever. Even Snopes got it wrong. Remember, Snopes is out there. They're supposed to be, we'll tell you what's real and what isn't real. And they've been caught making a lot of mistakes, well, lying a lot of times. And Snopes has labeled it unproven that Phillips had falsely claimed to be a Vietnam veteran. And Google placed Snopes' misleading fact check at the top of their search results about Phillips' Vietnam claims. So they're all basically pushing the lies. They're pushing the lies. Push the agenda. They're just hoping to get all those people who aren't paying attention, who aren't going out and finding out for themselves what's going on. We'll be right back.
Extendivite, made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle, feeds our body with the nutrients we need to keep healthy. Just listen to what Arthur had to say.
I was just calling to tell you what a great product you have. I had used this about 10 years ago after I had congestive heart failure. And it fixed me up and got me going for the last 10 years. Lately, I've been having heart trouble again, so I placed another order because this was the only thing that ever worked. I just wanted to let you know that you have a great product. Thank you very much.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go back to the phones here to Steve Elkins. Steve, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well,
know, the first thing I wondered about that video with Nathan Phillips and the Covington kids was, where was security? I didn't see any law enforcement on the premises whatsoever. And in D.C. at a war memorial, at the Lincoln Memorial there, I would assume there'd be tons of law enforcement presence there. I didn't see anybody, which was very, very suspicious.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the jurisdiction of the park police, but they should have been there intervening. But again, the whole thing was clearly staged. It was a setup. They were trying to basically trap those kids and provoke a response that they could get on video to push the story that white kids are bad, anybody wearing a MAGA hat is bad, and they really didn't get it. But they still went with what they had and tried to basically sell the idea, and it blew up in their face.
It sure did. They had a lot of egg on their face on that one. I've not seen anybody in mainstream media come back and addendum to what were actually initially reported. Nathan Phillips is a fraud.
Yes,
he's a total fraud, and the Vietnam vet and a refrigerator mechanic, not a recon soldier there. And I mean, he's a crisis actor. He looked for a response, and well, they know the truth, but they misreported it for a reason. There's an agenda there.
Yeah, there's definitely an agenda. There's definitely an agenda, and that's all we get from the corporate media is agenda. They're there to sell things: cars, clothing, fast food, political candidates, political ideology. There's virtually nothing accurate in the corporate media except the weather and the sports scores, and they're not all that good on the weather.
Yeah, there's something else I thought that Donald Trump should have brought to the attention. He talked about $500 billion worth of drugs coming into the country. He should have capitalized on that comment, also included with the opioid crisis. He never did. But I ran across an article just the other day from Washington Post, the Washington Compost, you call it.
Yes.
And evidently there's a problem, a medical tourism tragedy. I think it's going to be posted today from John. He's going to post it. But basically, there is a antibiotic-resistant bacterium out there coming in from Mexico. There's been 12 known cases in the United States, and there is really no backup plan on this. There's one medication that might have some sensitivity to the bacterium itself, but on the most cases, no, it does not. So you're looking at a crisis here, a health crisis in the medical field itself, the hospitals. If this gets out, there's another excuse right there. There's another reason you can use for having a border security wall. And, of course, health checkpoints to make sure people coming in this country don't bring contagious diseases.
Well, absolutely, and that's been a problem all along. I mean, with these open borders, all kinds of contagious diseases that had previously been eradicated inside the United States, they're being reintroduced. And for the medical industrial complex, of course, that's good news because the sicker people are, the more money they're able to make. But it's a public health crisis, and that's definitely an issue that Trump should have made a big point of when he was talking about the need for that border wall. I mean, even in the heyday of immigration with the Statue of Liberty and give us your tired, your poor, your yearning masses, your teeming masses yearning to be free, they still had to go through Ellis Island, and they still had to go through a medical check. And those who had illnesses were quarantined until they were well, or if they were incurable, they were sent back home. But with these open borders, we've had scabies coming on in, H1N1, HIV. There's been at least one confirmed case of bubonic plague. And if you look at all the people who are trying to get out of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, all it's going to take is one of those people who's infected with Ebola but not yet symptomatic getting across our border, and it's going to be a major, major problem. And again, it shows how the liberal Democrats don't care about the ordinary American people. So what if, all those white heterosexual males, come down with an illness and die? There's too many of them anyway, and they all vote Republican.
Yeah. It's not posted yet, but for your listeners who want to actually look it up, the actual title is called Medical Tourism Tragedy, and it's under, the author is Lena H. Sun, and it's on the Washington Post. Check that out.
All right, we'll definitely check that out. Thanks an awful lot. Anything else?
Got it. That's it, Michael. Thank you.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. Thank you for the phone call. We're going to let you go here. Yeah, that's a serious, serious problem. That's absolutely a serious problem. It's a public health crisis. And again, the open borders people, the globalists, the Democrats who are looking for all these illegals to vote Democrat, they don't care if you get sick. If you get sick, it's more money for the medical industrial complex. That's the way they're thinking. You know, they detest a healthy population. We're going to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com, educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354. Or visit MIG911.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant them anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And again, talking about the Covington kids here. The U.S. representative for Minnesota's 5th Congressional District, Ilhan Omar, she's the first Muslim woman to wear a hijab in Congress, basically put out a tweet very critical of the Covington Catholic students, which provoked a huge social media backlash, and she was forced to basically delete it as word of how this had all been misinterpreted by the corporate media finally came on out. So getting on back to the MAGA hats, Alyssa Milano is out there saying the red MAGA hat is the new white hood. They're trying to equate the red Make America Great Again hat with the KKK hood. And again, that's ridiculous. People in MAGA hats, they're not burning crosses, they're not lynching blacks, they're not voting Democrat, but they're basically trying to redefine the symbol, to try and demonize it, because they understand that come 2020, that MAGA hat is going to continue to be an icon for the Trump candidacy. So they want that to go away. And of course, so do the globalists. They view this rise of nationalism here in the United States and in Europe as a serious threat to their plans for the New World Order. Okay, let's talk about the economic news here now. Trump's tariffs are not working out. China's trade surplus with the U.S. has hit the highest level in more than a decade. In other words, we are importing more from China than ever before. And back when Trump started talking about these tariffs, I predicted that we were going to have a problem because America's manufacturing and agriculture were not positioned to take advantage of the tariffs, of the protectionism. Because China can make things we can't. China manufactures the iPhone. There is nobody in the United States who can make an iPhone. So we still have to go to China to buy these things, and we just have to pay that additional uplift, which is more money out of our pocket into the government's pocket, and the trade surplus continues to get worse. So it's another epic fail. It sounded good at the beginning. We're going to tariff China and we're going to fix that trade imbalance. And they didn't think it all the way through. Meanwhile, China is pulling investment out of the United States because of the trade war. Chinese investment in the U.S. has plunged 83%. They're taking their money out of the United States because of the trade war here. And apparently one of the hardest hit areas is Silicon Valley. Chinese investment into Silicon Valley has all but stopped, especially after the Huawei ban. And this is based on the former deputy governor of the People's Bank of China over at Davos. And he says, I can tell you after the Huawei events, all the Chinese money into Silicon Valley stops. And no U.S. money will want to invest in China either. Now, Huawei is a telecom giant. They beat Apple to become the world's second largest smartphone maker. And it's for that reason they're being targeted. Over claims that they're spying, they pose a security threat. No, they don't. They pose a threat to Apple's bottom line. Apple can't sell those iPhone 10s. They're simply too expensive. And in this economy, people are looking for value for money, and they're going into those cell phone stores, those retail outlets, and they're looking for the best phone they can get at the lowest price. And guess what they're picking? They're picking the Huawei phones. Now, George Soros is out there saying that Chinese tech companies pose a mortal danger and they can't be allowed to dominate because they're controlled by authoritarian states. And he's calling for a crackdown on Chinese tech companies. But this is all about market share, and Soros has just let us know how much of his fortune is invested in U.S. tech companies. That's what this is really all about. Soros went on to say that the U.S. and China are engaged in a Cold War that could turn into a hot one soon. And Soros is out there saying that the world's two largest economies are locked in a Cold War that could turn into a hot one. Now, Soros, of course, is a critic of the Trump administration, that he said Trump's decision to call China a strategic competitor was too simplistic. And he says an effective policy toward China can't be reduced to a slogan. It needs to be far more sophisticated, detailed, and practical, and it must include an American economic response to the Belt and Road Initiative. So what Soros is basically saying is companies I'm invested in can't compete with China, so I have to get the U.S. to start dropping bombs. That's what he's really saying. All right. China is getting ready to dethrone the United States as the world's largest retail market next year, or this year, actually. Retail sales in China are poised to surge this year and exceed U.S. retail by more than $100 billion, making it the top global retail market. Because those Chinese people have decent jobs. They're involved in manufacturing. They make products to sell. And because they have money, they are able to buy things. That's in contrast to the American people, who are just getting by, living paycheck to paycheck, and we don't have money to buy things. And by the way, the numbers are in. This last holiday retail season was an absolute disaster. Iran firms are defying sanctions by signing $1 billion in oil deals, and they've signed contracts for enhanced recovery of 9 aging oil fields in the country, which is now left to its own devices in the face of the most restrictive U.S. sanctions ever. Minister of Petroleum Bijan Zagana oversaw the signing between 2 subsidiaries of the National Iranian Oil Company and 7 domestic contractors to raise recovery at the fields by 90,000 barrels a day. So they're still out there. Another little article, this one's from Goldcore. Again, common sense advice. Gold bullion will protect from politicians, Brexit, and increased market volatility in 2019. And basically, George Bernard Shaw once said, you have to choose between trusting to the natural stability of gold and the natural stability of the honesty and intelligence of the members of the government. And with due respect for these gentlemen, I advise you, as long as the capitalist system lasts, to vote for gold. And it was absolutely right. You can trust gold a lot more than you can trust politicians. If you look at what's going on now. Another little story, this is out of Investment Watch blog. That's half, 50% of Americans and Canadians are hovering on the brink of bankruptcy. That's how bad it really is out there in the real world. Forget about what the corporate media is telling you about recovery and everything's wonderful. And by the way, stock markets had another bad day. The shale oil industry is not doing very well. Part of the pressure, of course, is declining oil prices and an oil glut out there. But the big problem is that they're having difficulty finding new investors to come on in and basically invest in the development of new shale oil wells. So it's basically they're dealing with a lot of debt. They're not producing the volume of oil and gas that they promised that they would. They're causing a lot of environmental damage. There's a lot of hostility to the fracking industry because of methane coming out of people's faucets, the methane that is killing fish in lakes and ponds, the earthquakes, So they're in serious trouble. All right. The United States Post Office is getting ready to raise the price of a Forever stamp by 5 cents. It's now going to cost 55 cents. This is a 10% increase. It's a record nominal price adjustment. And it takes longer and longer for the post office to deliver the mail. So I don't think it's really a rate increase. It's more of an increase in the rent, the storage fee. We're storing your mail for longer to get to you, so we got to charge you more, I guess that's what's going on. The post office is also considering selling access to your mailbox, not to just anybody, but they're basically talking about selling access to your mailbox to other package providers like FedEx and UPS. And I actually think that would be a good idea, because it would certainly reduce the problem with packages being stolen from your front porch. All right, let's talk about immigration and the refugees. Apparently, there has been a Legionnaire's disease outbreak at a Border Patrol facility, putting the migrants at risk. And they're saying it's another health crisis. It's another health crisis. And apparently, it's being covered up by members of Congress. So there's this Tricia Elbrock. She's the owner of Elbrock Water Systems in Animas, New Mexico. And she supplies portable, excuse me, I got the hiccups. She supplies portable bathrooms at facilities near the border. And she was asked to provide 2 portable toilets near the border at the request of the Border Patrol. And apparently that was not enough. She says her cleaning staff was overwhelmed after hundreds of migrants used them. So there's a health issue with the porta potties out there. Meanwhile, the Pope is heading to caravan country to push Central American migration. He's out there saying, yes, open the borders, let these people in there. And, you know, I wish he was as intent about dealing with the papal, with the priestly child molestation. But he's out there pushing New World Order and globalism and open borders. Over in Great Britain, the Queen has waded into the Brexit issue, basically telling the 2 warring sides to just cut it out, seek the common ground, and basically delivering this rebuke, saying you have to keep sight of the bigger picture. Now, it's 64 days before Britain is due to leave the European Union, with no subtle plan on how it will be achieved. At this point, it's looking more and more like there's going to be a no-deal Brexit. Over in France, 25,000 people have demonstrated again throughout the entirety of France, demanding fiscal justice and for Macron to step down. Clashes broke out in Paris as Yellow Vest protesters approached the National Assembly, and 103 people were arrested in the capital city. The Yellow Vests are saying this is a revolution. And the Yellow Vests are basically gearing up for the European elections. They're putting forth their own list of candidates for the European Parliament elections. So they're going to field a group of candidates for the May elections, unveiling the first 10 names. The list is to be expanded. They're planning to get 69 more candidates on it. Over in Germany, as you know, their intelligence services have started keeping surveillance on the Alternative for Germany party. And apparently they're being accused of relying on information from Antifa to justify their case for surveilling the Alternative for Germany party. And basically, the Germany's domestic intelligence service used Antifa sources and information at least 6 times in its analysis of the youth wing of AfD. Okay. So, all right, over in New York, a little bit of a blowback. As you know, New York just passed this horrible, horrible abortion law that legalizes abortion right up to the moment of birth. And it's provoked a hideous backlash among a lot of people. And apparently, Cuomo made some remarks in an interview on WCNY radio, which basically said that pro-lifers and conservatives keep out of New York. You don't belong here. Well, he's now trying to backpedal, and he's accusing the New York Post of distorting his words. Because there are conservatives in New York, and there are pro-lifers in New York, and they really did not like the idea of Cuomo saying, "Get out, you don't belong here." Meanwhile, Cuomo wants to ban the death penalty, apparently for everybody except unborn children. It's okay to go ahead and kill those. We're going to take a break for commercials. I'm going to try and get rid of these hiccups, and we'll be right back.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, Ricky Gervais, he's a comedian and actor, and apparently he has sort of come on out complaining that simply for defending freedom of speech, he's being labeled an alt-right Nazi. And he says, I'm an old-fashioned liberal lefty, champagne socialist kind of guy, a pro-equality, opportunity for all, welfare state snowflake. But if I ever defend freedom of speech, I'm suddenly an alt-right Nazi. How did that happen? Well, that's definitely a phenomenon we're seeing in our culture right now. Defending freedom of speech and the freedom to express your ideas, all of a sudden, you're the enemy. If you're not out there basically parroting what is coming from the liberals, then, you know, you must be a bad person. You're in league with the Russians. You're a potential terrorist. Now, there was a video that surfaced from the Women's March in D.C. From this liberal lady, totally shaved off, bald head, just went on this complete rant saying that humans should give in to fear and not logic. And she went on to say, keep America great. For people, that's racism. Well, this idea of giving into fear and letting go of logic, you know, logic is what built our civilization. It's what made all the buildings. It's what invented the cars, the airplanes, the computers. Logic is a very good thing. But the left doesn't want you thinking logically, because once you start thinking logically, pretty much everything in the left's agenda falls apart. So they want you to be afraid. Respond to the fear, and we'll tell you what to be afraid of. Be afraid of Donald Trump. Don't think logically about it. Just listen to us. Be afraid of Donald Trump. Be afraid of making America great. Up in Oregon, Senator Rob Wagner and Representative Andrea Salinas have proposed a new piece of legislation that would basically steamroll the Second Amendment rights of Oregonians and make it all but impossible for them to defend themselves and their families against violent threats. They're literally trying to make it illegal to defend your family in your own home. And we're seeing this all across the country. Now, a while back, there was a little bit of sanity with what were called the castle laws, as in a man's home is his castle, where if you were confronted by an intruder, you were free to presume they intended bodily harm, and you could defend yourself. And now the gun grabbers are trying to basically undermine that and say, no, 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 even if you're in your own home and a criminal breaks on in, you could get into trouble if you try and defend yourself against the criminal. Whose side are these people on? That's what I want to know. We'll be right back.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Over in Minnesota, Democrats are pushing for this idea that teachers should undergo what is called cultural competency training on how to handle transgender and gay students or lose their license. Well, I think if teachers just treat all the students exactly the same way, everything should be fine. And whatever happened to reading, writing, and arithmetic and job skills? That's what I want to know. It seems like public education these days is all about, pushing agendas and indoctrination into to liberalism. Now, as you know, Press TV anchor Marzia Hashimi was finally released from prison, and she's out there saying that she thinks the U.S. jailed her to try and send a message to members of the foreign press in general, Press TV specifically, to watch your step. She's saying she will not be intimidated, and she was detained for 10 days in a material witness, supposedly in an ongoing grand jury investigation, but apparently never actually testified before that grand jury. All right, so let's talk about NewsGuard. NewsGuard is the latest attempt at censorship. This one down at the consumer level. They're putting it into browsers. It used to be a voluntary download. Now it's actually being installed by default on things like Microsoft's Edge browser. And it basically gives news media a rating of, red or green, depending upon whether they're trustworthy or not. And of course, all the corporate media is green, all the liberal commentators are green, and all the conservatives are red. Anybody challenging the official discourse is red. And Dillingpole is out there basically saying that, NewsGuard has celebrated his wisdom on climate change. Dillingpole is famous for a quote, "When amateurs on a blog know more about science than the guys on multi-million-dollar grants at U.S. academic institutions informing global energy and environment policy, you know the time has come to drain the swamp." And of course, NewsGuard presents it as though this is a bad thing to say. But it's true. It's absolutely true. A lot of these people who are involved in these so-called government corporate-funded science programs, they're hacks. They're there for the money. They're there to sell out, and they're not really interested in what's going on, which is why they keep making such really bad predictions about global warming, why we have harmful vaccines, and so forth. And this leads to this next article. This came out of Health and Money News. Trust scientists, really? And it says, does anyone remember when we trusted scientists? We might not have understood them, but we understood their goals and purpose and saw them as noble. Today, it's different. They're politicized, lying fools. And you need to understand that individual scientists are just as corruptible as individual politicians or individual clergy or just about anybody else. That's why there is a scientific method. Scientific method gives you a way of reviewing the science outside human agency. You're not supposed to trust science. You're not supposed to trust scientists. You're supposed to think for yourself and analyze for yourself. We ran a story here, I think it was a few months ago, basically detailing how many of the articles published in so-called peer-reviewed journals turned out to be bad science and had to be retracted. But of course, once they're in the journals, they're in the libraries. They can still be referenced. And even though they've been officially retracted, they're still out there here. Okay, now we were talking about NewsGuard, which is out there green-lighting all these fake news giants that have been caught in these media hoaxes. But apparently, Microsoft is now working with a pro-Monsanto front group to use NewsGuard to censor all anti-GMO news. So it isn't just politics that they're censoring now. They're going to censor all anti-GMO news, and it's only a matter of time before they start censoring any articles and news that is critical of vaccination. They're basically reasserting dictatorial, tyrannical control over everything that you see, read, and hear. Now, the information is still out there. You're going to have to go hunt it down. You can't rely on web searches to bring it to you anymore. You certainly can't rely on social media to bring it to you anymore. You're going to have to go on out and just, frame your own questions and say, what's going on here? We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Story coming on out from the New York Times: YouTube moves to make conspiracy videos harder to find. And of course, the New York Times leads on out with this idea about videos claiming the earth is flat or the moon landing was faked, which these are planted. These are planted to try and kookify the internet. Nobody thinks the earth is flat. And other nations have sent spacecraft to the moon that have imaged the moon landing sites. And some of those nations are not friendly to the United States, but they acknowledge, yes, the lower portions of the LEMs and the other equipment are there. But they're using those to sort of support YouTube in this idea that videos that don't support the U.S. government's point of view on certain things like 9/11 or TWA 800 or Pearl Harbor are going to be basically taken off of recommendations. YouTube is going to keep the videos. They're not deleting them yet. They're just not going to be available in the search results. Another article, this one's from Information Clearinghouse, talking about how people are being banned by Facebook for telling the truth. And it starts out saying, once the newspapers competed, leaders had differing views, the pundits argued, the parties called for various actions, and they vied for pennies and votes and tried to convince us. Not anymore. Now the corporate media is perfectly aligned. They know what's best for us. They don't care about circulation. They're being supported by the rich anyway. And now the majority is basically being banned here. There's not a single newspaper in the U.S. that supports the views of Donald Trump. Nobody defended him when he was accused brazenly of being a Russian agent. Nobody supported him when he called to bring the troops home from Syria. What the media does do is they accuse Trump of paying too little attention to Israel's needs. Israel needs U.S. troops in Syria and in Germany. They need U.S. jets in Spain and Qatar, U.S. ships in Italy and the Gulf. Israel needs the U.S. to lead NATO to contain Russia. And then the corporate media wonders why their viewership is down here. Meanwhile, Facebook stock took a major hit, almost 50%. I'm sorry, not 50%, but basically a report has come on out saying that 50% of Facebook users are fakes. And of course, 1 year ago, we had the Cambridge Analytica scandal that broke. And a former peer of Mark Zuckerberg at Harvard, who created one of the original Facebook prototypes, is saying that, the company's circumstances are more dire than investors realize. In a report published last Thursday by Plainsight, an independent research shop led by Aaron Greenspan, analysts calculated that Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has been regularly lying to investors and the public about the company's user metrics, and that Facebook is overestimating the number of users by a huge, huge margin. Imagine my shock here. Okay, there are two more malwares out there to be on the lookout for. GandCrab, which is a ransomware, and Ursnif virus, and they're spreading via MS Word macros. And by the way, if you're using Microsoft Office, the first thing you need to do is turn off the macros. They aren't that useful anyway. And that's definitely a way that some of the malware gets spread. And if you get a message that says you must turn on macros to see this message, I guarantee you it's malware. So Ursnif is a data stealing malware that steals sensitive information from compromised computers with an ability to harvest banking credentials, browsing activities, collect keystrokes, system and process information, and deploy additional backdoors. Discovered earlier last year, GandCrab is a widespread ransomware threat that, like every other ransomware in the market, encrypts files on an infected system and demands victims pay a ransom in digital currency to unlock them. It asks payments primarily in Dash, which is more complex to track. Not that anybody's tracking. I mean, we reported a while ago, there actually is no law in the United States against the writing of computer malware. Can you believe that? It's actually perfectly legal. All right. Now, over at the Jewish Communal Fund, they're on the warpath against their critics. They're comparing their Jewish critics to David Duke. A report came on out showing that the Jewish Communal Fund is funding anti-Muslim hate groups. So if you're wondering where a lot of this stuff on the web is coming from about, Islam is this and Islam is that, it's being bought and paid for. And this Jewish so-called charity, after donating millions to these anti-Muslim hate groups, is likening the authors of this report to the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, David Duke, and said the findings are spewage. Oh, you're just a bunch of anti-Semites and Jew haters here. So you need to be very, very careful about it. And again, every time any of these organizations comes under criticism, the first thing they said is, oh, it's anti-Semitism, it's anti-Semitism, it's Jew hate. We didn't do anything wrong, it's anti-Semitism. And it gets a little bit extreme over here. This was a story in Russia Today. There was apparently a family that was taken off an American Airlines flight because the passenger and crew were complaining that the family had overpowering body odor. They were just stinky, and they were asked to get off the plane until they could clean on up. Now they're claiming that the airline was guilty of anti-Semitism, that the only reason they were taken off the plane was because they were Jewish. I mean, that's just how silly it is here. Okay, over in Minneapolis, a former rabbi at a Jewish learning center is not going to serve any jail time for making arrangements online with somebody he thought was a child for sex. Aria Cohen, who's 44 years old, received a stayed 30-day sentence from a Ramsey County District Judge at his sentencing hearing Wednesday afternoon, which I've posted for those who claim I only pick on the Catholics regarding this sort of behavior. But isn't it rather interesting how this guy just kind of skated on this? Just skated. Now, here's another little story. There's a guy named Steve Campbell. He's a missionary linked to a Baptist church in Maine, and he's being investigated by officials from FUNAI, which is the Brazilian government's Indigenous Affairs Department, amid reports he could be tried for genocide. Apparently, he just decided he was going to enter this area occupied by an isolated tribe to try and convert them to Christianity, and by doing so, expose them to a deadly disease. See, that's the problem with these isolated tribes. They are isolated. They have not been exposed to outside diseases from the rest of the world. And they're saying even if direct contact has not occurred, the probability of transmissions to the isolated area is very, very high. Now, Campbell is claiming that he entered the area by mistake while teaching Indians from the neighboring Jamamati tribe to use a GPS device. I find that one a little hard to believe, that with a GPS device, he went into an area he was not supposed to. Over in Arizona, State Senator Paul Boyer wants to mandate that parents are told exactly which ingredients and chemicals are in vaccines before their children are inoculated. I'm very much in favor of this. The bill he's introduced will require health professionals to provide not just the positive effects of vaccinations, but also the full list of ingredients and possible side effects before a vaccine could be administered. And I imagine the vaccine industry is going to be out for this guy's hide just as quickly as they possibly can. Okay, it is a hard winter. There's no getting away from that. And apparently over in North Carolina, the swamps are freezing, and they're finding the alligators are trapped under the ice. They basically have got the tips of their snouts poking out from the ice so that they can breathe. Temperatures have dropped to -3 Fahrenheit, and this is very cold. Now, this snout sticking out is a known survival technique that they've acquired over a long time, but it does indicate, they're very, very cold. They could die of the cold here. Over in Great Britain, they're predicting this week the entire country could be blanketed in up to 13 inches of snow. And there was another story over here. This came out of the Express in Great Britain, where apparently there was a dog and hare who literally froze to death while walking. Now, the hare got caught in a fence and froze solid. And the dog was still standing up, was standing in the snow, was propped up by the snow. The temperatures dropped to -56 degrees centigrade. This was over in Kazakhstan. Meanwhile, the polar vortex is slamming the Midwest. It's hitting the Midwest and Northeast. And they're saying it's going to bring temperatures to their lowest level in years. They're using words like life-threatening, dangerous, brutal, and unprecedented. This is coming from the National Weather Service. And they're saying, don't think that you can just go out in this weather without adequate protection. You will be sorry here. Chicago got hit with a -60-degree wind chill. and it was so cold you could literally get frostbite in the space of a few minutes. That's how cold it is. Up in Canada, because of the coldness up there, power prices are up 4 times. People are having to just burn up a lot of electricity or gas trying to keep their houses warm. Back in Great Britain, they're talking about the beast from the east. Is it back? And wondering, where is it snowing? And the Met Office is warning of continuing freezing. And it's a horribly, horribly cold winter. Deal with that, Al Gore. We'll be right back after these few words.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs, memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And breaking story here right now. Apparently, Nancy Pelosi realized that the optics were really bad on her trying to block the State of the Union. And so she and Trump have come to an agreement. The State of the Union address will take place in the House chamber on February 5th. So score one for Donald Trump. And that really was over the top for Nancy Pelosi to do that, after that whole debacle with the wall and everything. So apparently she backed off and said, yes, he can have his State of the Union speech. All right, getting on back to human-caused global warming. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez made headlines a little while ago saying that the world would end in 12 years unless we addressed climate change, meaning global warming. And she also compared fighting global warming to the fight of World War II, where we're going to defeat global warming the way we defeated the Nazis. Like, what are we going to do? Have the tanks fire at the sun? And then she started devolving basically into biblical references to justify her arguments, about how we're in charge, humans are in charge of the world, and we've got to take care of it. So she's getting a little bit out there. All I can say for sure now is that the Democrats now have their equivalent of Sarah Palin. Okay, this came out of Russia today, and it was absolutely brilliant. It's the first ever 360-degree video footage shot in outer space. And it's basically a video, and you can put your finger on it and drag your point of view, and you can look all the way around at these two Russian cosmonauts who are launching nanosatellites from outside the International Space Station. And it is spectacular. It's absolutely spectacular to see. And I'm sorry, flat earthers, the Earth is a sphere. You can see it very clearly in this video here. But cosmonauts Sergei Ryansky and Fedor Yurchkin captured the scenery while doing their 7.5-hour spacewalk last August, which included maintenance tasks and the launch of 5 miniature satellites. So that was great, and it's a great piece of video here. Meanwhile, NASA's Opportunity has marked its 15th anniversary on Mars. Unfortunately, it's a little bittersweet because it's still silent since the gigantic dust storm last June. NASA still has not given up trying to reactivate it, and they're trying a program of approaches. They've been just pinging it. Are you there? Are you there? They're not getting a response. They're getting ready to try sending some other commands that might get the system to reset, reboot. But again, if there are still piles of dust on those solar panels, then Opportunity is really dead. And the only thing that will save it is if one of those little Martian dust devils flies over it and cleans it off, which actually did happen once before. When they were concerned about one of these rovers, it was getting really dusty and it didn't have a lot of electricity from the solar panels, and it got hit by one of the dust devils, and all of a sudden they had all the power they needed. So these things really do happen. And I wish them luck. I do wish them luck. But 15 years, that's a good run. That's longer than we had the Vikings up there. So good for them. Getting on over to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, they've had 14 new cases of Ebola show up in a single day. That's a record. It's the worst day. And again, 9 of the new cases were in Katwa, a city of several 100,000 people just outside Butembo. So these Ebola cases are getting near the major urban centers. And all it's going to take is one of these people who are infected but not symptomatic to get on a plane, fly to Mexico, and walk up to our border. And thanks to the Open Borders people and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they're going to walk into our country carrying Ebola. It's only a matter of time. Volcanologists up in the state of Washington are expressing concern that Mount St. Helens could erupt again. Now, if you remember, back in 1980, Mount St. Helens erupted and blew off literally one side of the mountain. It measured 5 on the volcanic explosive index, and it's been declared the most disastrous volcanic eruption in modern U.S. history. I actually have a jar of the ash from that. And now there is a new lava dome rising at 5 meters a day in the center of the remains of Mount St. Helens. And 5 meters a day, that is a lot. And so they're going to be keeping an eye on that. And I remember when Claire and I lived in Washington State, we went down to visit the volcano, just take a look at it. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back. Join us on the air. We'll be back after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha America, welcome back to our show here. Coming up on the end of our program on this Monday, we're going to skip on back and pick up some news stories from earlier in the talking points here. Apparently, Tesla is announcing a second round of mass layoffs and reduced production. Things are not going good over in Tesla land, and I'm sorry to see it happen. I've not had the opportunity to drive one of the cars or really look under the hood. But I really do think electric cars are the wave of the future. As soon as we come up with an alternative way of producing the electricity that doesn't involve oil, gas, and coal, and that will definitely complete that revolution. You know, electric cars right now are an unrealized promise because in order to get the electric car to running, you're still using conventionally fired power generators, unless you've got a nuclear reactor near your home here. Getting on back to the economic news here, there's an iconic mall retailer, Things Remembered. They're getting ready to close 400 stores and let go 2,500 workers. Now, if you don't know who they are, we've got one down here, oddly enough, at the bottom of the hill. It's a specialty gift store where you go on in and they've got all these very personal gifts, you know, like, you know, goblets and wine glasses, and they'll engrave them with names, and it's all very, very lovely stuff. It's a little pricey, and therein lies the problem. Things Remembered is the kind of store that would do very well in a healthy economy, but we're not a healthy economy. And so I wonder if the one that we have down here will go out of business. Not that I go in there very much. I think the last time we went in there for, I think, something for Christmas. I don't even remember what it was here. Story coming out of Investment Watch blog: the IMF fears political rage will block rescue by the Federal Reserve in the next crisis. And it well might. I think people are getting very, very angry at the way the banking system is working, because it's clearly looking out for its own interests. It's not serving the public at all. And I think more and more people are wondering why we can't go back to the economic system this nation was founded on, which did work for the American people and for the nation. Over at Facebook, they're gearing up for the elections. They've decided to disable the political ad monitoring tools used by transparency watchdogs. So basically what it is, there were these tools where watchdogs could monitor political advertising. Facebook has now shut them off. So these political ads can now do and say whatever they want, and nobody's going to be really paying attention to what they're doing or who's doing it here. James Woods, and I've come to really be an admirer of him. And my original reaction to him tended to be negative because he always plays these really negative characters, you know, bad guys. Then I saw Videodrome, and he was great in that. It was just absolutely wonderful. But reading his tweets over the last couple of years, this is obviously a very intelligent man, very thoughtful man. And he's come on out with another tweet saying, "We are now experiencing the result of an entire generation raised on prescription pharmaceuticals to modify their behavior." And that is a very perceptive comment. And it's something I have been thinking about myself for quite some time. You know, we're not dealing with just a few people who are on these medications. We're dealing with an entire population, including the police, including our politicians, including people in the media, including people in business and banking. You know, have we all been drugged into very aberrant behavior? It would certainly explain all of this transgenderism nonsense. Would certainly go a long way to explaining why there are surges in suicide rates in so many sectors of our society, including the military. In the name of making a fast buck, the medical industrial complex, they're just doping our brains up. And we go along with it because we trust our doctors, and the doctors say, oh, you need this antidepressant. I fell for that once. Never again. My doctor said, yes, you got to have this antidepressant. And I had a serious negative reaction to it. And it's all to make money. And the doctors are getting incentives to push the medications. It's why we've got this opioid crisis now. It's all about making the money. And we're being encouraged to basically idolize the medical establishment and medical practitioners as being, absolutely perfect and infallible. And they're very fallible. I mean, doctors kill far more people than assault rifles every single year in this country. We ought to be doing that. All righty. Speaking of guns here, there is a sheriff. Let me get this story up here. Sheriff Bob Songer. And he's out there basically saying that Washington State has passed a slew of new anti-gun bills that's going to make it one of the most regulated states in the country. And the bills are being met by resistance from the sheriffs who are saying, we're not going to enforce it. And it's really rather interesting because when Claire and I lived in Washington State, the gun laws were very relaxed. Modern weapons had to be registered, and they had to be, you had to turn the serial numbers on them. Black powder weapons, no, nobody bothered with those because there's no way that you can link a musket ball to a musket with a ballistic test because of the patch. And I remember seeing handguns for sale at yard sales. That's how loose it was. Now it's, we've got to have more and more restrictions. The gun grabbers are out there in force to try and disarm us all because they're afraid. They're afraid that we, the American people, are getting angry. And we are. I hear it all the time in the phone calls on the show. I see it all the time in the emails. People are getting very, very angry. Okay. And here's a good warning here. We've been talking about this before. Apparently, artificial intelligence it's being used in U.S. law enforcement. It's sending people to jail, and apparently they're discovering already it's making mistakes. They're trying to do that minority report thing on all of us where the AI says, well, this person is getting ready to do this. And this article is basically talking about how there are problems with all of this new high-tech whiz-bang. Facial recognition software has a bias toward darker-skinned individuals, including mistaking members of Congress for criminal suspects. Racial profiling is now automated, while law enforcement agencies claim the computers are race neutral. Courtrooms are relying on criminal risk assessment algorithms. This is coming from MIT's Technology Review, which is, by the way, very good if you're interested in the latest in technology. And under the guise of trimming the number of prisoners while processing defendants efficiently, prisoners are being assigned recidivism scores that estimate to what extent it is likely that a perpetrator may or may not reoffend. And this gets back to something I was asking about artificial intelligence before, based on the fact that the Weather Channel uses IBM's Watson AI, and its ability to actually predict the weather here in Hawaii is abysmal. It is absolutely abysmal. I get better weather forecasting looking out the window for myself. Okay. All right. Sorry, I had to take that message. So we're talking about AI, we're talking about the Weather Channel, we're talking about Watson and the poor quality of the weather forecasting. AI, as it's currently used today, it's a big marketing buzzword. It's considered a program that is able to learn. But how do you know if what it is learning is correct? There's no such thing as an AI teacher. The AI isn't going to school. There's nobody grading its work. It's just looking at what it sees, and it basically makes an assumption. But that assumption can be wrong. And it certainly doesn't seem to work with weather forecasting out here. And now we're seeing it with this idea that it is making all kinds of mistakes, putting people in jail. And I understand that these court systems and police departments, they want the latest whiz-bang. They want to get the funding for the latest whiz-bang. But you got to make sure it's really going to work accurately so that you don't ruin somebody's life inadvertently. And that seems to not be a factor any longer in the calculation about getting these machines in there. All righty. So, anyway, our government is temporarily reopened until the 15th. Maybe, maybe not. It all depends on what Donald Trump is going to do. Now, there is absolutely no question there is a crisis at that southern border. There's something like 3,000 people just in Tijuana alone trying to get on through, trying to apply for asylum. And the catch and release isn't working. Most of those people will never qualify for asylum, and then how do you track them down to kick them out of the country? Then you have the health crisis, which one of our callers mentioned, and that is a crisis. Just all in the name of politics and elections here. All righty. Apparently, 30 families are blaming social media firms for their roles in children's suicides. As it emerges, Pinterest sent a personalized email to Molly Russell's account with self-harm images after she took her own life. Well, that's definitely tacky here. But here is a question. How much of these suicides are caused by these prescription psychiatric medications, and how many of these suicides are being caused by this social pressure to be a victim, to basically, take to heart all that's being shouted at you? Again, when I was a kid, sticks and stones can break my bones, words will never harm me. We all had thick skins. People would yell bad things at us, and we'd say, okay, who cares? Today, young people are being encouraged by the liberals to take offense at everything. Well, how much offense can they take before they decide that they don't want to live anymore? Anybody ever stop to think about that, the damage that this is doing? So it's a shame. It really is. And we've been hearing it a lot of these kids committing suicide after getting bullied online. I mean, when I was a kid, I can't imagine anybody I knew committing suicide for getting bullied, even in real life. It just didn't happen. So something's going on, whether it's the prescription antidepressants or this liberal ideology of just taking extreme offense at everything. And you know what? I have a real problem here, especially with this take offense at everything, be wounded at everything, and especially this idea of toxic masculinity. At Claire's church yesterday, some of the people were actually talking about that and saying, we don't even know what that is. What's going on here? Well, it's just a way of demonizing men for being men here. But we're looking at coming up on major wars, more major wars. Has anybody stopped to realize that taking our current population of young people with all of this liberal ideology in their heads and wounded at the slightest thing, taking them into battle is not a good idea? If we're actually going to go to war, if we're actually going to go into combat with these other countries, our kids need to be a lot tougher. They need to have thicker skins. And nobody seems to be thinking about that at all. Apparently, a tornado hit Havana, Cuba, killed 3 people. And, okay. By the way, I think we mentioned this yesterday, but Debbie Wasserman Schultz is now fixing democracy in Venezuela, just like she fixed it during the Democratic primaries in 2016 here. Okay. And let's see here. Apparently, over in Arkansas, there is a protest starting over the dress code. And Laura Orsi, a senior at Parkview Arts Science Magnet High School in Little Rock, got a text from her friend asking for help. And apparently, the friend was having a panic attack in the school's front office after being dress coded for her skirt. And apparently this Laura Orsi has decided to fight back against the dress code. And again, a panic attack. Very, very fragile children we have. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com, educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment getting worse.
Hey, and aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program here today. And getting on back to Mueller's indictment of Roger Stone, it's important to understand that Mueller did it basically to look like he's accomplished something, but he really hasn't. His original mandate was to find evidence of collusion between the Trump presidential campaign and Russia, and he has utterly failed to do that. So he's gone on out and he's nailed a bunch of other people, for process crimes outside the scope of his original mandate, just to make it look like he didn't totally waste all that time and $30 million. But looking at Mueller's indictment of Roger Stone, again, there's nothing in there about Russia collusion. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it's important to keep that in mind. Now, Mueller, of course, is still trying to get somebody to be willing to lie, to go after Trump, make a deal. We got you now. We got you on this. We're going to send you to jail for 20 years unless you're willing to cooperate here. Over on Twitter, apparently they've now decided that telling fired journalists learn to code is targeted harassment. You can be banned for that. And it's not the first time that that phrase has been used. Other times when professions, when am I saying profession? It's a trade. Being a journalist is a trade. It's been used before, but now it's considered targeted harassment against the media. And also on Twitter, apparently somebody posted a poem on Twitter suggesting transgender women are still men. And they got the police sicked on them. The police are investigating this Twitter user for saying that transgender women are still men. And yes, they are. It's coded in the DNA. Why are the police getting called in on this? It's utterly ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. Apparently, Tesco is getting ready to lay off 15,000 people and close the meat, fish, and delicatessen counters in a move to affect the supermarket's 732 larger stores. I'm sorry, the indicators are out there. Things are getting bad, and you better be ready for it. And that means pay off your credit cards as much as possible, get out of debt as much as possible, and again, only have in the bank what you need to meet your immediate obligations and keep the rest at home under your control. If it's not under your control, it can be seized. Oh, we have Art off the grid. Art, we only have a minute left. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, I can make this pretty quick. This is ridiculous. These teachers are being threatened over this. If they don't take this course to learn how to deal with transgender children. And you ask the question, why can't we just treat everybody the same way? Well, it's real simple, Mike, because they don't want to be treated the same way. They want to be treated special. They claim we want to be treated equally like everyone else. Okay, fine. Then you can accept the criticism that everyone else can accept for whatever they get criticized for. You can't ask to be treated like everyone else and then expect special treatment. You just can't do it.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Anyway, Art, I'm going to have to let you go because we are at the end of our program here. Everybody, please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please take what you learn here, share it with everybody else. Please donate to RBN. They really need it. Donate to whatreallyhappened.com. We need it. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When your doctor tells you have bad cholesterol or blockages in the arteries, what do you do when Diet Next